we're going to use our military to stop the cartels and to save lives. A president not only has a right, you have a duty to fight back when people are killing your citizens. And they've killed hundreds of thousands of Americans over the last 5 years. That's more than any terrorist group has killed in a similar period of time. We would never let a terrorist group get away with it. Why are we letting the drug cartels get away with it? So buckle up. You're going to have a new regime coming in, and I will be the president that finally ends the border issue once and for all in this country.
Hey guys, hope you're well. Just coming back from a Ron DeSantis town hall in Dover, New Hampshire. So I figured I'd tell you all about it. And DeSantis might be the least relevant candidate to talk about, but in my opinion, he is the most interesting candidate because there is nothing more fascinating than a polished, slick campaign fall apart at the seams. And right now, if you're watching this with me, what we're doing is we're kind of witnessing Ron DeSantis' last gasp. So everybody else, it's a little less sad to see because Nikki Haley still has a fighting chance in New Hampshire. She started off in the beginning of the race at only 3%. Marianne Williamson, Dean Phillips don't have necessarily high expectations, but it was Ron DeSantis in the very beginning who was almost beating Trump in the national GOP primary polls shortly before he announced. Then he announced, and then people realized they didn't really like him that much. And it was interesting to see Ron in action himself. I will say at the event, there were probably about 50 to 60 people, which is not bad, maybe 80 to 90. So the attendance wasn't great, but it also wasn't bad. And he gave a good speech. I think he's generally a good speaker. He's substantive, he's thoughtful. And he just kind of talked about all of his greatest hits, what he'd do at the border, how he never wants to have lockdowns again, and that how Trump locked everybody down, but he didn't, and that he's kind of unique in that way. And sort of just talked about his credentials in Congress, talked about how he'd be stronger on foreign policy. And it's a lot of the stuff that you've heard from him before. So, again, he gave a great speech, but take a look at some of the clips. One of the things that you'll notice is that the press has been saying how incredibly awkward he is. And one good example of this is somebody would ask a question, and he'd say, "What is your name?" And the person would say their name, and he'd say, "Good." And that's it. You think you'd say, "Oh, that's a funny name," or if the guy's name was Jack, say, "Well, Jack, thank you, thank you for letting me know your name. Jack, this is my policy on X, Y, and Z." But he's just like, "What is your name, Jack?" "Good." That's it. So there's this fundamental not he's ready for prime time, but not ready for prime time with the voter kind of feeling that Ron DeSantis uniquely employs. Everybody else comes off as sort of warm and likable that you see. Even Donald Trump, even though he's not warm, he's entertaining to listen to because it's like you're having a conversation with him and he's not rehearsed. Haley came off as warm as well. So did Marianne Williamson, quite obviously, and Dean Phillips. DeSantis just doesn't have it. And I'm somebody who ran for office when I was younger. And you have to have a personality type to successfully run for office. I loved it. I would dance with people. I would sing. I would joke around. If somebody asked me a question, I'd ask them a question, then it would almost turn into a conversation. And I'm somebody who's pretty naturally outgoing and gregarious and I love people. That's why I've done politics. That's why I ran for office. I've traveled to 48 states in the USA, 6 provinces in Canada, 27 states in Mexico, and all because I like to meet different types of people. So if you have that personality, run for office. If you don't, like Ron DeSantis does, you just come off as kind of a jerk and unlikable and not knowing how to respond to somebody where they feel like you're saying something kind or making them feel good about themselves. That's so crucial as a candidate, and it's clear to see Ron DeSantis just doesn't have it. DeSantis might have made some waves saying he would impeach Secretary of Homeland Security Alejandro Mayorkas, so that was kind of interesting.
Republicans in the House are talking about an impeachment inquiry against Secretary Mayorkas. If it gets to a point where there is a vote on the floor to officially impeach Secretary Mayorkas, would you support that?
Yes. What's your name?
My name is Nolan Cleary. I'm from the North Shore.
Okay, good. Nolan, yeah. Yes. The whole idea of impeaching people is when they disregard their oath of office and the Constitution. He's let in 8 million people illegally. That is wrong. He has not satisfied his oath of office, and I think that is totally appropriate to hold them accountable. The reason we have such bad outcomes in Washington, one of the reasons, because nobody ever gets held accountable for anything. Think about the disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan. 13 service members killed, leaving all this equipment behind for the Taliban. Just a total disaster. And yet, has there been one senior military official, civilian leader held accountable for that? Zero have been held accountable for that. All these things, no one's been held accountable for COVID. No one was held accountable for Russia collusion. No one was held accountable for the IRS targeting scandal back on when Obama was president. On it goes. We need a reckoning. We need a reckoning for this government where people are going to be held accountable. They exercise all this authority, and if they don't do it well, or if they disregard their oath, people just shrug their shoulders. So yes, there needs to be accountability. People need to start stepping up.
And this is the one moment, I decided to include this chicken moment just because it's kind of interesting. This is the one moment where DeSantis comes off as likable. And I would say it was the one moment in the entire event. But you could see that maybe, just maybe, if he had 6 more months to hone it in, he could come off as more likable. Unfortunately, the clock is ticking.
Well, on the chicken thing, this is a source of controversy within our household because we've got 3 kids that like chicken nuggets and chicken tenders. And so if you judged it based on the percentage of our annual income that we spend, clearly Chick-fil-A would be far and away. It's interesting. We did, last year in my office, we did a blind chicken finger taste test. So we brought them in, we had Cane's, we had, which other ones did we have? There's a local one, Guthrie's. I don't think we had Chick-fil-A. I think we had a different one. They did, and Cane's, Raising Cane's. Well, do you guys have Raising Cane's?
Yes.
Oh, you do? Okay. Yeah, really good stuff. But yeah, I don't think let's just put it this way. Our family's daily rhythms would change if there did not exist Chick-fil-A. Like, that's probably our kids' favorite thing. And look, it's not like you just do it every day, but when you're going from baseball game or this or that to be able to do, it's important. So yes.
And so here you can see Ron DeSantis address Nikki Haley and really go for the jugular, which is, I will say, if nothing else about DeSantis, is he's a good attack dog.
The question about Nikki Haley, like why doesn't she give a straight answer? Is it just because she's waiting for people to tell, whatever? Look, I think it's just a lack of core convictions, and I think she's trying to tell you what she thinks you want to hear. And you've seen that throughout the campaign. That's why they don't let her answer questions like they are. She won't even give a straight answer. So she's running, particularly in New Hampshire, to be the vessel for anti-Trump sentiment. So she wants everyone that really hates Trump to be it. She's kind of catering to that. But on the other hand, she's positioning herself that if Trump's the nominee, she can be the vice presidential candidate. So when she's asked about that, can you categorically rule out ever accepting the vice presidential nomination if Donald Trump were the nominee? She gives a word salad. Oh, I don't play for second, blah, blah, blah. I was asked, would you ever be Donald Trump's vice presidential nominee? And my answer was simple. No, that's just what you can say. So I think it's she's positioning herself. I think some of it's just a lack of core convictions, and then I think a lot of it is she has this really weird tack where, like, she will say something on video, people will produce it. Like, for example, she wrote in her book that she was inspired to run for office by Hillary Clinton. And she said Hillary remains in some ways an inspiration still. Now, that is not a good soundbite in a Republican primary. I get that. But you wrote it, and you've said it, and so when people confront her with it, she says she never said it, and that you're lying. And I'm just thinking to myself, if you're on video saying this stuff, or you're writing that down in your book, why would you not just own up to it and be honest with people? Some of the things she's tried to do in South Carolina, tried to raise the gas tax. She's on video saying it. Just admit that you tried to do it and say maybe now why you've changed or whatnot. She said a couple months ago that she wanted for social media, she said her first day in office, she's going to demand that everyone has to give their names to the social media company. She's like, I want it by name. And like a lot of people are like, what? Like that's government overreach. And so she had to backtrack, and then now when she's asked about it, she said she never said it. She's on video saying it. So it's just odd that you take that tack, because I don't think that that's effective. I mean, if someone confronts you and you say you're lying, and then you see the video of them saying it, to me, I think they just lose credibility. But that's kind of how she's planned on all this stuff. But she has not given a straight answer about being Trump's vice presidential candidate. And think about this. This is the first in the nation where there was no debate in New Hampshire. I raised my hand. I was ready to be there last night and on Sunday. The CNN was going to do one. I agreed to do both, but neither Trump nor Haley would do it. And I think it's because, when you get up there, your record becomes an issue. I'm proud of my record. I'm proud of my vision for the country.
And I think my favorite part of the event was just meeting some very, very interesting people. And where I was talking about Ron's lack of likability, Ron's lack of charisma. There was a collection of kids or young men, I think they're college age or late high school age. They came all the way from Philadelphia to hear Ron DeSantis speak, and there were a bunch of them were DeSantis fans. But take a look at what this young man says, and he just says that DeSantis, in his speech, while it was a good speech, it lacked power. And that's kind of the it factor. This young man kind of put it perfectly.
Yeah, dude, you did a great job preparing today. I kind of expect a little bit more.
You think you should have answered a few more questions?
I think you should have also, the speech should have had a little bit more power behind it. It wasn't very convincing. But still nothing holding it. Excuse me.
So you could see the problem. You could see the issue that even if you're a DeSantis fan, there's nothing in his ability to speak or of much of anything that he does to really inspire excitement. Then this woman I talked with, she is a state rep as well. I spoke with a state rep at Nikki Haley's event. So a lot of different state reps support different candidates, but she was formerly a 5-term state representative in New Hampshire. And you can see she encapsulates DeSantis' base and why DeSantis didn't do as well as he would have liked, because DeSantis' base, the people who really like him, it's on very conservative issues. And I think the ultra hard right conservative wing of the party is slowly diminishing. It's taking a long time. And of course, they certainly felt victorious with the overruling of Dobbs, therefore making abortion a lot more difficult in the country. But once that happened, it didn't seem like a lot of people really cared that much about the big social issues that DeSantis sort of seems to bank his campaign on. Remember, he signed the 6-week abortion ban, while Haley has kind of gone back and forth in the issue, and Trump has sort of expressed open regret for appointing Supreme Court justices who overturned Roe versus Wade. So it's interesting. DeSantis brings out the hardcore socially conservative people. And for this woman who's very nice, her number one issue was, she was pro-life. Her number one issue was abortion. So DeSantis will always have a segment of those people to carry in his pocket with him, the tried, true, kind of conservative, hardcore religious members of the GOP. But I think they're almost becoming a relic of the past in a way. Certainly not on the immigration and a lot of other issues, but on the social issues, on abortion, things like that. I don't know if it's a selling point that it was even 4 years ago. So she kind of represents the one remaining fan base that DeSantis has.
He's got our conservative Republican principles at heart, but it starts with respect for life and respect for all people.
And do you think he's been the most consistent in life? Are you disappointed how Nikki Haley's flip-flopped, how Trump has abandoned his pro-life principles?
It's a defining issue for me. Any candidate that either flip-flops or tries to appease both sides of that issue, that's a losing candidate. Neither side is going to trust them.
And do you think, did Iowa have any effect on your voter support? It sounds like the enthusiasm for Ron's still strong.
No. I mean, the fix is probably already in, but we still have to vote our principles.
And what makes you want to continue to fight? Just because he's the right candidate? He actually knows how to implement change and he has the right values? And you fight where you believe in?
You know, this is just my personal
Sure.
conviction, you know. But yeah, I mean, I align with all of his principles and his philosophies. I'm a social conservative and a fiscal conservative and a freedom-loving, common sense, libertarian-leaning Republican. Let's put it that way.
And then here's somebody from the AARP who's going to every candidate event. And she didn't seem terribly convinced by Ron DeSantis' answer. And it was interesting because she asked a question. She was a caregiver and wanted to know, A, was Ron DeSantis ever a caregiver, and what he could do to empower caregivers and make their lives easier as things get more and more expensive. And it was totally bizarre because DeSantis is like, well, no. And then he gave a substantive answer as to why he would strengthen caregivers and give more support for them. But it was interesting because it's like, if I were up on that stage and my wife had cancer, and somebody says, were you ever a caregiver? And I also had 2 kids. Immediately, the reflex would be, yes, I took care of my wife when she had cancer. I was at the hospital X amount of days. I took care of the kids. I had to be a single father for 2 months. But my wife was, it looked like, me going to cry a little bit. And my wife was facing this hardcore, historic, hard-fought battle against cancer. And she was so brave. And that's it. That's all you have to say. But he was just like, no. So there's this weird lack of humanity or ability to make basic human conversations that certainly comes out in this DeSantis event.
And do you think DeSantis gave a good answer? Because caregiving was asked specifically, so that might be relevant.
It was. It's a start.
There's a lot more they could, yeah.
Yeah, we got to get something started. It's just a lot of people that need to take care of them. And I mean, like with my mother, she was in Vermont, not New Hampshire. And I had to travel 2 hours to get over there. Every other weekend, I spent the weekend there,
Full-time job at this point. I think has the best policy on it now that you've gone to all these candidate events? Or do you have a candidate that you like, or are you keeping an open mind personally?
Oh, it's still very much an open mind. One day I'll be leaning one way, and the next day I'll go and say, oh.
I hear you.
There are a few that are definitely off the list.
On the positive side, yes, he is substantive. He knows what he's talking about, and he is actually good in the debates. But I think this is DeSantis' last stand, and I think DeSantis will drop out within 2 days. And this is why. If you go on Ron DeSantis' website and try to find events, nothing shows up. You think if he's promoting his campaign, he'd want to put his events on his website. Marianne Williamson, Dean Phillips, Nikki Haley, Donald Trump, all of the candidates, except for him, you could go to their website and find out where they are. Oddly enough, the way I found out about DeSantis' event is the New York Times said Ron DeSantis is in Dover, and oddly enough, he was 3 blocks from my motel. So that I was thinking about taking a day off, but I was like, well, he's 3 blocks from my hotel. That makes life pretty easy. But if you went to DeSantis' website and clicked events, you would not know that it existed. So very bizarre, and his Never Back Down pack apparently is planning on abandoning him. So I think this is his swan song, and he was quick to get out. The last thing I'll note is it's interesting. DeSantis took questions, unlike Nikki Haley. So respect for DeSantis for that, and people appreciated that more. And people appreciated that more than Haley simply not taking any questions. But he didn't do photos with anybody because obviously he was in a rush to go to South Carolina, never to see New Hampshire ever again. But it's fascinating to watch in real time this campaign that had so much hope sort of die in real time. So I would say this event was more fun than anything else. But I think DeSantis, consider him dead officially, for himself to say it, consider him dropped out in about 2 to 3 days. Thank you guys again for watching. I appreciate all of it. Tomorrow on Saturday is a Trump rally, so I'll have the report from there. Figure I go to 2 of his events because he's the front runner, obviously, in this election by a mile. And then lastly, I heard Aaron Smith Levin got arrested, so I will do a video on that. Take a break from politics for a quick 20 minutes, probably late tonight. I'll have that video out. But, I haven't looked into it, but I will say real quick for all the people who know about Scientology, people get arrested by the police for protesting, for standing outside all the time. So, I saw a lot of comments in my live stream saying, oh my God, Aaron is arrested, Aaron is arrested. I think on either side, it's probably not that big of a deal. People protest, they get arrested, I've protested. I've intentionally protested to get arrested. That's kind of what you do if you're a political activist. So that's happened. You get out of jail the day of or the next day. As to, was it really evil that he was arrested? I'll have to look at his live stream and do all the research and take a look. maybe, you know, he violated some sort of 2 feet rule, private business. Maybe he was considered trespassing for. I'm sure he wasn't with any of this, but I'm trying to give them the benefit of the doubt. But I will do some more research. Scientology videos are always popular. Want to do some more of them anyway, so I will look into the Aaron Smith 11 being arrested and have a video either late tonight or tomorrow about it after I do some research, because I don't want to speak without knowing much about it. And today it was just kind of all at the event. So again, Saturday Trump rally. If you want to answer my poll, that would be awesome. Who do you want? Whose election night party do you want me to come to? It looks like people really do want Trump. Trump might be the toughest to get into, although I think you could probably get into any election night party. But I don't actually know the process of that, but I'll keep you posted on that. And as always, thank you guys for watching. Have some new subscribers from the shorts. So thank you guys. And yeah, appreciate the continued support as always. You have a good night.